In Olawa City, there lived a man named Elle. Every morning, Elle woke up in a small single-room apartment that overlooked the bustling street below. His walls were thin, his bed creaked, and his dreams were bigger than the space he lived in. He was tall, dark-skinned, and strikingly handsome, the kind of man whose smile could stop a passerby. But good looks were not enough to fill an empty stomach. Toby had finished his degree in business administration years ago, yet the job market was merciless. His days were filled with long walks to companies that promised to call back, and never did. By evening, he sat under the old almond tree beside Deo, his childhood friend who worked as a mechanic. "Toby, you can't keep waiting for luck to find you," Deo teased one evening, wiping oil from his hands. "You have the face, the charm. Use it before it fades." Toby smiled weakly. "Use it how? Should I start begging women for money?" Deo laughed loudly. "You don't have to beg. Just look around. These rich widows in Olawa are hungry for companionship. They'll pay for your attention if you play your cards right." Toby shook his head. "That's not the kind of man I want to be." But as he walked home that night, the words lingered in his mind. Rent was due, and his landlord had already threatened eviction. Hunger was not a friend that listened to pride. The next morning, as he strolled past the women selling tomatoes in the market, he overheard them gossiping excitedly. "Have you seen Madame Adewale lately?" one asked. "The woman looks younger every day." Of course," another replied. "Since her husband died, she's been running that estate like a queen. I heard she's looking for a man to keep her company." Toby stopped walking. His heartbeat quickened. A man to keep her company? He turned to look at the women. They were still talking about how Madame Ronk was rich, powerful, and owned half of Olawa's properties. Her mansion was said to shine brighter than the governor's house. The image of wealth flashed before his eyes: gold gates, luxury cars, and meals that didn't depend on the mercy of a street vendor. For a moment, the thought disgusted him. But then he looked at his worn-out shoes and the frayed collar of his shirt. Desperation has a way of silencing pride. That evening, he searched for Madame Ronk's mansion. It stood tall at the edge of the city, a white marble house with tall palm trees and a fountain that sang softly in the courtyard. Security men in black suits guarded the gate. Toby stood there for a long time, heart pounding. What could he even say to a woman like her? But before he could think too long, a silver SUV stopped at the gate, and the tinted window rolled down. Inside sat Madame Ronk herself. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her jewelry sparkled like stars, and her eyes held the confidence of someone who was used to being obeyed. Their eyes met briefly, and Toby's throat tightened. She noticed him, perhaps because of his clean face and posture. "Who are you waiting for?" she asked in a calm, rich voice. He swallowed hard. "Good evening, Ma. My name is Toby. I heard you were looking for an assistant. I thought I could be of help." Her lips curved slightly. "Is that so? You look too young to work for me. Or do you have another kind of help in mind?" Her question was half teasing, half serious. Toby quickly bowed his head. "I can do anything, Ma. I'm hardworking. Please give me a chance." Madame Ronk studied him for a moment longer before gesturing to the gatekeeper. "Let him come tomorrow at 9 in the morning. We'll see what he's made of." As her car rolled inside, Toby stood frozen, his mind racing. He couldn't believe it. He had just spoken to one of the richest women in Olawa City. That night, he lay on his small bed, unable to sleep. His heart danced between excitement and fear. Deo's words echoed again. "You have the face, the charm. Use it." Toby smiled faintly into the darkness. "Maybe this is my chance," he whispered to himself. Outside, the city hummed with life. The music of bars, the cries of traders, the faraway sound of luxury cars speeding past. Inside Toby's room, a different kind of hunger grew. Not for food this time, but for power, comfort, and everything poverty had stolen from him. But he didn't know that the gate he would walk through the next morning was not the gate to freedom. It was the gate to a golden cage. The following morning, Toby rose before dawn. He ironed his only good shirt until it looked almost new and polished his shoes with cooking oil for shine. His reflection in the cracked mirror smiled back at him, nervous but determined. As the sun stretched over Olawa City, the town began to wake. Hawkers shouted, buses honked, and the scent of fried plantain filled the air. Toby walked briskly toward Madame Ronk Adewale's mansion, rehearsing what he would say if she asked difficult questions. He knew this meeting could change his life forever. At exactly 9 o'clock, he arrived at the white iron gate. The security man, now familiar with his face, nodded and let him in. The compound glowed with elegance, trimmed hedges, quiet fountains, and roses blooming like silk. The mansion itself stood proud, its glass windows reflecting the morning sun. Inside, the air smelled of perfume and polished wood. Toby waited in the grand living room, sitting stiffly on a velvet chair. His eyes roamed over the tall paintings and chandeliers. Everything in the house screamed of money and taste. He felt small but refused to show it. After a few minutes, Madame Ronk entered the room. She wore a flowing cream dress that shimmered softly with every step. Her hair was neatly styled, and her eyes observed him like a teacher examining a student. "So you came," she said, settling gracefully into a chair opposite him. "Yes, ma. You asked me to return." Her voice was calm, but every word carried authority. "Tell me something, Toby. Why do you want to work for me?" Toby hesitated. He had practiced a dozen answers, but under her gaze, his mind felt blank. He finally spoke. "Because I believe in hard work, ma. And I want to learn. I can do anything you ask." Madame Ronk smiled faintly. Good answer, but not an honest one. Toby froze. She leaned forward slightly. "You don't need to lie to impress me. You came because you're desperate, didn't you? I can see it in your eyes." His throat tightened. I just need a chance, ma. And perhaps," she added, tilting her head, "you heard stories about me and thought you could charm your way into comfort?" The air grew heavy. He wanted to deny it, but something in her expression warned him not to. So instead, he bowed his head slightly. "Maybe I did, ma. But I also believe I can be useful." To his surprise, she laughed softly. "At least you're honest. I like that." Her tone softened. "I test people, Toby. Too many men approach me pretending to care, only to reveal their greed later. But I believe in giving everyone a fair chance. You'll start with small tasks, errands, deliveries, small responsibilities. If you do them well, I'll reward you." Toby nodded eagerly. "Yes, ma. I'll do my best." She studied him again, her eyes unreadable. "And one more thing, respect my rules. No lies, no gossip, and no laziness. My world is not for the weak. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma," he replied quickly. Madame Ronk rose, signaling that the conversation was over. "You may go now. Speak to my housekeeper. She'll tell you what to do first." As Toby stood to leave, she added, almost casually, "And Toby, be careful what you wish for. Some fortunes cost more than they give." He smiled politely, pretending not to understand. But her words lingered in his mind like smoke that refused to fade. The housekeeper, Aya Mornike, was an older woman with sharp eyes and a deep voice. She handed Toby a sealed note. "Take this to Baba Gok at the farm. He's expecting supplies. Don't lose it." Toby nodded and set out immediately. The note smelled faintly of Madame Ronk's perfume. He held it carefully, imagining the possibilities ahead. As he boarded a motorcycle heading toward the farm outskirts, the city's noise faded behind him. He smiled into the warm wind, thinking about his luck. Maybe Deo was right. Maybe charm can open doors that effort cannot. When he arrived at the farm, the scene was far from the luxury he had left behind. The air was thick with dust and the cries of laborers. Sweat glistened on every face. Baba Gok, an elderly man with a rough beard, eyed Toby suspiciously as he stepped off the bike. "You must be the new boy Madam sent," Baba Gok grunted. "You think wearing perfume will make the soil softer?" Toby smiled humbly. "I'm here to help, sir." Baba Gok snorted. "Then start by carrying those sacks. Out here, there's no sir. Only work." The day was long and punishing. The sun burned his neck, and his hands ached from lifting. The luxurious mansion felt like another world. But each time he wanted to quit, he remembered Madame Ronk's calm, powerful voice, and the promise hidden beneath it. By sunset, when he finally sat under a mango tree, sweat-soaked and exhausted, Baba Gok handed him a bottle of water. "You didn't run," he said. "That's a good sign. But remember, Madame's tests are never simple. This is only the beginning." As the sky turned gold and purple, Toby looked toward the horizon, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. Somewhere deep inside, he sensed that Baba Gok was right. This was only the beginning. The next morning came with soft rays of sunlight crawling across Toby's small window. His muscles ached from the farm work, yet his spirit was strangely alive. For the first time in months, he felt like he was moving toward something bigger than poverty. He arrived at Madame Ronk's mansion early, still smelling faintly of sweat and dust. The gate guards greeted him with mild surprise. Most people avoided returning after their first taste of her strictness. Inside, the housekeeper, Nike, gave him a quick nod of approval. Madam saw your effort yesterday, she said while arranging flowers in a vase. She doesn't say it, but she notices everything. She wants to see you. Toby's heart skipped. He quickly straightened his shirt and walked into the living room where Madame Ronk sat by the window, sipping tea. She looked elegant even in the morning, wearing a silk robe and diamond-studded earrings that caught the sunlight. "Good morning, Ma," he greeted, bowing slightly. "Good morning, Toby. I heard you worked hard yesterday," she replied calmly. "Baba Gok said you didn't complain once." Toby smiled shyly. "Thank you, Ma. I believe in earning trust." Her lips curved slightly. I like that." She placed her cup down and leaned forward. "I don't trust easily, Toby. Too many people have taken advantage of my kindness. But when I find someone who respects hard work, I make sure they never regret it." He nodded respectfully. "I'm grateful, Ma." "Good," she said. "Because today I have another task for you. One that will show me if you are as dependable as you appear." Toby straightened in his seat. "I'm ready, Ma." She motioned to Nike, who brought a brown envelope. "Inside this is a list of supplies and cash for my farm workers," Madame Ronk explained. "You will deliver it yourself. No mistakes, no excuses. If one thing goes missing, I will know." Toby took the envelope carefully, feeling the weight of responsibility in his hands. "Yes, Ma. I'll deliver everything safely." Her eyes softened slightly. "You remind me of someone I once trusted many years ago. I hope you won't disappoint me like he did." Toby didn't ask who she meant, but he sensed a story hidden behind her words, something painful and private. He simply nodded and left the mansion, determined not to fail. The journey to the farm was long, but this time he felt confident. When he arrived, Baba Gok was already waiting near the entrance, arms crossed. "You again," Baba Gok said. "Didn't think the city boy would survive one day of labor." Toby smiled. "I told you I'm not afraid of work." He handed over the envelope, and Baba Gok began checking through the supplies and cash. The workers whispered among themselves, curious about the young man who had come from the mansion. By noon, the heat became unbearable. Sweat drenched Toby's shirt as he helped distribute sacks of feed, fertilizers, and seeds. Every now and then, Baba Gok glanced at him, testing his endurance. When the last bag was delivered, the old man finally spoke. "You've done well. Most boys your age would have run off after the first hour." Toby smiled weakly. "I just want to make something of myself. I'm tired of having nothing." Baba Gok studied him carefully. "Be careful, son. Madame Ronk rewards loyalty, but her world is not easy. The higher you climb, the tighter her grip becomes." Toby frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man chuckled dryly. "You'll understand soon enough." As the day ended, Toby sat under the same mango tree from the day before. The workers were laughing, and the sound of rustling leaves filled the air. He looked at his dusty shoes and thought of Madame Ronk's elegant hands, her piercing eyes, and her promise of a better life. He wondered what kind of woman she really was, a generous mentor, or something more dangerous. When he returned to the mansion at sunset, Madame Ronk was waiting for him on the veranda. The glow of the setting sun painted her face in warm gold. "Welcome back, Toby," she said softly. "Everything delivered?" "Yes, Ma." Baba Gok confirmed it all. "Good," she replied. "You've done well. Come to dinner tomorrow evening. We'll talk about your future." Toby's heart leapt. Dinner with Madame Ronk? He tried to hide his excitement. "Thank you, Ma." As he left the compound, the gate closed behind him with a heavy thud. The cool evening breeze brushed his face, but his mind was restless. He was proud, yes, but also curious. Why would a woman like Madame Ronk invite a poor young man like him to dinner? He smiled faintly as he walked into the dark street. Maybe this was how rich people tested loyalty. One dinner, one favor, one secret at a time. He didn't know it yet, but that dinner would be the night everything began to change.